Well, morning, folks. Midnight Owl strikes again. Over John C. What's going on? It's November 1st, 2020. Sunday. Was it Saturday? I'm sure it's that Sunday. I kept thinking today's Sunday. But no. According to my watch, it is Sunday. Wow, all this time I kept saying about Halloween is supposed to be on Friday night, and it's not. It was on Saturday night. Boy, did I screw up on those other videos. Screw it. I'm not going to stress. No, I am waking up. Actually, been awake for about an hour already. And checking over the news cycles and what happened last night in my little town of Roseman. Let me explain. I came to this town back in 2015, or actually 2014, 14, I think. Yeah. Spent about a year trying to get used to this town, trying to know some of these people. And when you get on a Facebook group called I in Roseman, you discover how many varied opinions and strongly worded keyboard warriors there are, telling people what to believe and what not to believe in. It's called status of some of these people. Well, it's a town of basically about 30,000 having problems with their own population control, having problems with their own economy over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 decades. Things they used to take for granted gone forever. Changes they didn't even like what's happening in the town. Commercial areas that were supposed to be renovated wasn't. Areas that had the old town charm disappearing left and right. People are pissed off about it, but they don't like the progress and they don't like what's going on. Those of them that have grown up in a small town and small town like-minded. They resent the fact that large populations would want to go into Rosemont for cheaper rent than what LA County has, or even LA City does. And once they find public housing over here, they balk about it. Online, they go crazy, and also mention it in person sometimes, but they keep their comments out there when it comes down to social media. Their only way of getting their opinions across. You look at the town, you pass it by when you're on your way either to Mojave or Bakersfield or wherever you're going on the 14th freeway through the Antelope Valley, California. A nice little wedge strip of desert, especially when you're traveling either to or from Los Angeles or other parts of Southern California. We only have, let's see, one freeway goes laterally, another freeway just goes up and down, north and south. I think it's 58, stretching from Bakersfield all the way to the east, stretching in other portions from LA County into San Bernardino County. We call it Apple Valley. But with our wedge-shaped geologic and geographical area, or a wedge because we have the mountain ranges created through earthquake fault lines. San Gabriel's, we have San Andreas fault line hooking up to another fault line that's a little bit, well, actually it stretches between Mojave and Roseman itself, and the Gorlick fault line they call it. See if you happen to look on a geologic map, or actually if you look at this Google map it, you'll see this nice little arrow, and you see this community squeezed into it. Down below you have a small area, you have somewhat of a large population of 100,000. And then you have another population of about 100,000. The lower population is Palmdale, which has the Air Force Base of Plant 42, a manufacturing place. The only industry this area has, well, besides a little bit of agricultural, they got rid of that because they wanted the aerospace base more and more, and they wanted more and more residential space, and they're still trying to expand in certain areas. And then you have Lancaster, which has no industry, but they are a community. They're both cities in their own right, both depending upon the County of Los Angeles for some of their services, while the rest of it are dependent upon other services, but they're still cities. Crosstown rivals, but both depend upon each other, and they don't even realize it half the time. They both argue about each other. Which one's the better town? And which one has the worse slums? Palmdale's a little bit more upper and ritzy, more like Beverly Hills sometimes. But there are areas that they have low-income areas, high crime areas for those. And Lancaster, pretty much everywhere else. So people who couldn't afford living in Antelope Valley look to upper communities such as Moron, Ridgecrest, California City, Mojave, and then there's Rosemont. Rosemont, if you're traveling on the 14th Freeway northbound, you blink, you miss it. But it's the gateway to Edwards Air Force Base. I mean, sure, there's a north entrance to it, coming from Moron, called North Edwards area. Then there's the southern region, which is the Rosemont area. Only two ways I know of to get into the damn base in the first place. And this is a flight testing center, combat area, testing, training, logistics, whatever they need the base to be. And it is a resource. It is a source of income for the Antelope Valley because they have military personnel who need services left and right, and the Antelope Valley provides bare basics for them. Both Lancaster and Palmdale, and a lot of them reside in either both places or even in Rosemont. Because there are places out here that they do live in, government housing or government built housing, but still in the town area of Rosemont. We're next to it. We're right on the edge. So all the traffic coming to and from the base goes right through the middle of Edwards Air Force Base, actually through Rosemont, to the 14th Freeway, and then people split up between north and south. The west side is the most ritziest, most expensive, and most expansive area. The east side was the originally established areas, but some of the areas got run down, large tracts of land, and we'd get people building low-income rent places out here, which a lot of people say the whole town is run down because of that. So they hardly ever see the east side at all. But the west side, they complain more and more because they have more and more crime happening in the area. They blame the east siders all the time. They blame everybody else. They have their own issues. So getting that fact out there. I mean, once you're on the 14th Freeway going southbound or northbound, you blink, you miss the town. The town's spread out laterally. Quite literally. We only go so much in the east up to the barrier of Edwards Air Force Base. Anything else beyond that, we could spread out if we could, but not much room for that. Not much call for it either. There should have been a long time ago. I mean, they had enough area for it. Not to mention we have a railroad going through Antelope Valley, cargo. In Lancaster, we have the start of the Metrolink station, and that goes all the way to downtown Los Angeles, to the Union Station. From Lancaster to the Palmdale Station and through the rest of the passes, Santa Clarita, Valencia, New Ulm, Sun Valley, Burbank, then LA. In the town I live in, said before, 30,000. Part of the population is on social media all the time. The rest of them just work their asses off left and right. They got nothing else better to do, so they nitpick at each other left and right about the world, about everything else. And politics, they're strongly opinionated about, especially with conservative politicians. They support heavily. They want everybody to leave the damn town alone. But they also want the town to expand. They want, but they're refusing to pay. They don't want to pay. They think they're paying too damn high prices. Everything else is getting too damn high for them. They blame everybody else for their damn misery. They remember the old times. They remember the old days. And they blame the low-income people coming in here for everything. I had made a video several months ago when we had actually gotten international fame at one time. We had a celebrity, or someone who hooked up to a celebrity, accused of murder. He got chased all the way into Roseman. We got a small blurb in the national and international news cycles, and then we disappeared. And I thought maybe we'd just do some public relations. Since nobody else tells anybody else about our little town over here, what it has to offer. And I'll tell you something, it hasn't that much to offer in the first place. I mean, tract homes, that's about it. Usually on the west side. They're still trying to construct more, but sometimes they have issues with it. We're trying to expand out of commercial areas, at least close to the 14th freeway anyway. But not much hope in that. They don't like high taxes, as I said before. They don't like the low rents. At least the people coming over here looking for low rents. They don't like their bills being high. They want to be able to afford the higher food prices. If not, they keep going over to Lancaster for shopping. Everybody goes to Lancaster or Palmdale for shopping, mostly Lancaster, because it's got the cheaper rates and cheaper stores to do so. But politics side, they haven't got that much over here to offer anybody, to tell you the truth. Nothing. Except Edwards Air Force Base. But it's the major supplier of their funding at this point. Without the base personnel living over here, that'd be a nice little hole in the wall to hide it. And they'd still have issues with the county of Kern. Supervisors will hardly ever know about Roseman. Except they do. They just don't pay attention to us much out in Bakersfield, the hub of Kern. They don't like the sheriff very much, but some of them actually do, and they keep supporting the son of a bitch. We have the lowest sheriff's deputies around in the western region that we have. Roseman doesn't have that many, like 3 deputies. That's about it. 3 to 6 deputies, actually. And about maybe 2 to 3 highway patrol officers for 30,000. And then we got Boron having less. Maybe about 1 or 2 if they're lucky. Cal City's on their own little city, so they got their own little police force over there. Ridgecrest has to borrow from Kern. So we don't have that many people, but they have many more people out in Bakersfield. They have more larger police force out there. I'll show you the disproportional situation what we're dealing with out here in Antelope Valley, not to mention the Kern and LA County. LA County, you got millions and millions of people in different areas spread out throughout the county. It's not that many people in Kern. Larger landscape, but less people. Only because that's your quote-unquote wildlife. That's your Wild West. COVID-19 struck different areas at different times. Mostly it struck in the Central Valley, hitting people left and right, and then people are transferring that information. Tehachapi is a small town in the mountain ranges between Bakersfield and the rest of the Antelope Valley. For a small isolated community, even though they had their own medical facilities, their own doctors, pretty damn cool, they still got nailed. Urgent care centers out in Bakersfield kept telling people that don't worry about the damn COVID. COVID's nothing. COVID's nothing. A couple of quacks out there own an urgent care business out there. Got their asses ringed by the medical establishment and by everybody else. They said they were losing businesses. Well, shit, if you got sick people over there, I thought that was your business right there, is treating sick people. So, what they considered about herd immunity, and these people are actually going for the herd immunity. They don't like the idea of having masks. Hell, even the people who are on low income, who have been here, who are transplanted, who have moved out here from different portions of California. We're not talking about the ritzy, we're talking about people looking for the low rent. And they could care less about it either. So now we've got that going on. We've got the people in the upper income, don't care about it as much. We've got the people in the lower income, don't care about it as much. So I kept wondering, how come we haven't had any higher COVID cases in this rinky-dink town we've got? I can't figure it out. But people keep thinking about herd immunity all the time. They keep thinking about enough of the population getting sick is going to be a barrier to everybody else because they'll have the antibodies to protect themselves from it. Well, then how many people are going to be losing in a town in the first place? I mean, if you're going to be losing people in a town, you're going to be losing those who've had immune-compromised systems, from the young all the way through the old. But that's supposed to be the barrier to protect from everybody else. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. No bullshit. The needs of the elite outweigh everybody else. That's what they're thinking at this point over here. They're not saying it, but that's what they're thinking. So it gets to me when I'm hearing issues of they want things back to a normal routine. Before we had COVID routine, we all knew what normality was. We still bitch and gripe about anything and everything. Actually, they did. I usually got on their asses left and right. I've got videos about that one. When you're targeted as a libtard, liberally retarded, they're firm. I don't know where the hell they get the term. Or libturd. You're a shithead of liberal, or liberal shithead, so you're the libturd. What gets to me is thinking outside their box pisses people off. A few people could actually think outside their box. Not for everybody else. Forget it. Move it forward here. That's all I'm doing. So, their thinking is it's stupid for people to think this way. It's stupid for people to act this way. The rest of them think, no, we're a conservative town. We don't give a shit. Care about our own, but we really don't care about anybody else. Even about our own people, we don't even care about. It's the kind of mentality that you love out in this place. This is your pure conservative bullshit town. And yeah, I did use that terminology. Well, these people just don't understand what conservatism is all about. all for yourself and screw everybody else at the same time. I've seen that happen. I've read it happen too many times, and I'm not talking about recent history. I'm talking about past history. Too many videos on that one made. Suffice it to say at this point, a town like Roseland needs to get their ass shaken up. And it's scaring the crap out of them because they don't know how to deal with it. COVID marches into their town. They had plenty of warning. Some of them actually were wearing masks. The rest of them like, eh. But now they have to because it's mandated by the state, by the federal, and by the county. And they can't stand it. They bitch and they gripe about their own way of life being threatened at this point. Well, I hate to tell them something, but their life has always been threatened. They just hadn't paid attention to it. They hadn't. I mean, they had plenty of warning of how to take care of the damn COVID. Mask, social distance. I'm not quite sure about the washing of the hands constantly. But they want to make sure that the bug traces on your hands are not going to be passed on from one place to another place, so I can understand about using wash basins or actually using a hell of a lot of hand sanitizer for that. But that would have been the same logic in dealing with the flu bug. And here's the other thing about that one. Now, people keep thinking about herd immunity works for every disease, including flus. Flus, we get vaccinations left and right. As long as we know what strain's out there, create the vaccine, we get it. We get the shots, we create the barrier. Those who get sick, well, they're not going to pass it off because everybody else has got the immunity at this point over here. So people are pushing for the immunity therapy at this point. But the non-medical situation is supposed to help delay until we actually get adequate treatment. And then the other portion of the thing is that COVID-19 changes. It mutates. So for one version of it, the vaccination is going to be fine, but for the rest of the variations, that bug mutates into. And this is genetics. This is science. Excuse me. This is genetics. This is science at work. This is biology 101. Things mutate. Things change. Things grow. And once the virus changes into a different format, we have to start from scratch all over again, trying to find out what the hell's going to nail this son of a bitch. We try using a template here, template there, and we still have to work hard on it. So it takes a while to get the vaccinations going, not to mention how many people are going to be used on this thing for test cases. So by the time we're ready to rock and roll for the public, how do we know this damn thing hasn't mutated into 2 or 3 different forms that we're not ready for? The flu we can get to. The flu, we've mapped the damn thing out. The COVID, they're still mapping it out. They're mapping out the genomes. They're mapping out how this bug thinks and works, and how it acts, how it behaves, how it affects the human body. And it affects it a lot of ways. And once it leaves the human body, it doesn't leave the human body because it still leaves the small soldiers in there, still causing havoc. It's a biological war, and people are thinking about warfare. They're not thinking about, you have a small insurgent group coming into your damn body, screwing you over, making you as a base of operations, while it starts its rebel occupation with everywhere else, and everywhere else is forming beachheads as well, and then so on and so on. And people keep thinking that once you get the immunity going, it's going to protect you, right? Because the insurgency has already done damage to those host bodies. It still maintains an effective force in there. It may not be noticeable, but it's still there. It's still ready to infect people. How is people are getting infected left and right? Reinfected, actually. Going back into the hospital. For a person who's healthy, and it tears out their guts, and it turns them into jelly somehow? I don't know. I'm using over simplifications here, but You get the point. You get the point. The bug's a nasty son of a bitch. So here we are with the immune with the immune idea here. You get enough people locked up with the damn bug, they are the barrier for everybody else. Only the problem is, if you have a vaccination to protect them, it's not going to protect everybody else. And you're going to lose a population, but you're like, okay, we're acceptable to that. We're going to lose the population. Who cares? Who cares? Family members die, friends die, co-workers die. Who cares? They're just numbers. The rest of us are alive. That's the thinking for herd immunology. Protect the major herd, screw everybody else at the same time. You notice I've been wearing this shirt for a hell of a long while. I gotta get it washed. But I'm taking the vest off because it hurts. A lot of weight in the back. But also I want to show you this again. I know you folks have noticed it. These people were immune compromised. All three of them. We all have health issues. 2 out of 3 are dead. If we had the COVID back in 2012, all 3 would not be here. We have cancer running into the system, heart disease, we have hypertension, we have strokes, we have major nasty things happening. And not just all 3, but through our family history, through our genetic bloodline. We have all of these things happening. We have type 2. We have heart disease, as in heart attacks left and right. Because of a diabetes situation, we got strokes. We have cancers. We have addictive behaviors. It gets worse. Even just 4 out of 5. That's what happens. At a certain age, Lord, or dead. Back in 2012, I was already affected. Not by the disease, but by injury. So my system was already compromised. I would have been a carrier, and I would have been affected by it. I would have been dead. If I was fighting like crazy, I may have survived. My system would be compromised during that time. I already had enough history going on against me anyway, so I'm still vulnerable. My mother was bedridden. Disease would have a party with her. But they couldn't make her into a beachhead. Unless you had people coming in and out all day that she could spread the virus without even realizing it. She'd be dead. There's no way of keeping her alive. My brother, he already had numerous health issues as well. And he was meeting people constantly. He didn't get flu. He got flu vaccinations. He had pneumonia vaccinations. So we were situated for that. And we even had smallpox vaccinations. We're situated for that too. And COVID came in, it killed our mother. It killed us both. I probably would have been the last one. Or it could have been the first one, I don't know. Either way, I wouldn't be doing these recordings. Knowing the family history. If we knew what we knew, hindsight being 2020. We played that again. Can't play that again. We have to play here and now. Because we know what this bug is doing right now. We're getting more and more information. But people just don't want to be bothered with it. They're too tired. They're too tired of dealing with it because they're seeing all their life being destroyed left and right by a damn bug. Jobs gone. Houses being vacated. People are getting evicted. Industries collapsing. We've got major industries out there reinventing themselves. Beat the son of a bitch. All it takes is government to work with them in order to find ways to get around this thing. There are ways. Some of the governors are just too damn timid at this point. The others are just getting too damn blatant. They're saying, keep the masks off, we'll do herd immunity. And they're the ones getting the higher rates. But even the ones wearing the masks are still getting higher and higher rates because people are getting tired of it. They're getting tired of wearing damn masks all the time. So it's a hell of a time for us to live in right now. This is November 1st. In 2 more days we vote. Now what's going to happen? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a soothsayer, but I can tell you that this isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. We're still in the pandemic. And either we find ways to deal with this son of a bitch and beat it, or learn different ways on how to die from it. Our choice, isn't it?